Hi and welcome back to the Roottreemania expansions of the Roottrees Are Dead. If you're not up to date with all the Roottree drama, hop on over to the playlist link on the video to catch up on all the dirty secrets. But if you're all caught up, let's get back to investigating all the affairs.
Has Clark reached out to you? Well, let me give you a short history lesson about the last few months of my life. 3 different people contacted me, claiming that somewhere in their history, they might be Roottrees. First, that young man, the rapper. I ignored that one. He seemed dubious. But then I saw the news. I felt terrible. So I began helping the others. Because my doubts with Felix were so misfounded, I ended up putting too much faith in the second person that approached me. I went to the media prematurely. I admit my mistake there. But the third person who contacted me also had a credible case. Before I could help, the company got to them somehow. The fact that the family silenced them doesn't seem to fill me with hope when it comes to Clark's intentions. But you're making progress based on the leads he gave you. It's really hard for me to get a read on him. I'll let you handle it. I've sent you the case I've been working on, and some company records I managed to track down. The records are quite dense, but hopefully they're useful. Good luck.
So we've identified some of the members of the family with 4 relatives locked in, and now we should turn our attention to the evidence that Sam brought us, which should hopefully lead us to some more people we need to identify. Maybe let's start with the picture here, put some faces to the situation. This is Mary-Beth Clementine. We have 4 people. So, yes, photo from San. A woman named Regina Clementine came to her and claimed that her husband has confessed he thinks he's a Roottrie. Details of the case can be found in your evidence. Stuart is the older boy wearing a vest. The woman in the photo is Mary-Beth Clementine, a singer who may have had an affair with Miracle Roottree. Yes, we know Miracle was involved. Let's start making new pages. We still have lots of threads to investigate just from the catch-up things, but we'll get to them if we're stuck. Just title this Miracle, because it will be related to him. So we have Regina Clementine, but she's actually just going to be a spouse of someone who might be a Roottree. This is the mother. So we have an email here. This is all the information I have about Regina Clementine Nee Salazar. Okay, that will be her maiden name right there for us. From New Orleans, Louisiana, and her husband Stuart Clementine. She wrote me about a month ago. Apparently the Roottree lawyers went after her since then. By the time I received her letter and called her, she told me she couldn't cooperate anymore. Her husband, who is a police officer and never knew his father, told her he thought he might be a Roottree, but he's estranged from his family and didn't want to pursue it because he had no proof. She wrote to me behind his back. Normally I wouldn't be so sure, but she had some pretty credible facts. Some of it I've been able to confirm. Stuart's mother was named Mary-Beth Clementine. She was pretty well known in the 30s to 50s, a singer who went on tour to a lot of churches. You can look her up online, and she was pretty big proponent of adoption. I know for a fact that she came to Butler Country a few times. I remember him from when I was younger. And Regina said that Stuart told her that they always seem to spend a lot of time at the Miracle Church. She sent me a photo to prove that she's who she says she is. I've attached it to this email. And her email signature is promoting her book. And also, yes, save a tree, don't print this. We printed it. And we also have company records. Given some partial staff records to cross-reference by Sam. The records are based on old tax mailing information and detailed employees that work directly for Roottree. Okay, guys, secretaries, searching people might be. Okay, so this is a lot of names across years. And yes, trying to search every single person might not be so useful. But yes, if we're trying to find if someone worked there or anything like that, this may be useful. I think I'll get back to kind of combing through it a bit later, because this is not going to help with the Miracle thing. So I think I'm going to go down to this Miracle and Mary-Beth situation first, and then we can go through it. However, the only one thing I want to get from here is that, yes, there was a Joana Robertson that worked there, and then her name was changed to Flowers. So this is how we get the maiden name of 5 Pieces Matter. So we can now add that in here. So she's now ready to be confirmed. We're gonna leave Guy and all of the company records for a bit later and instead start looking up Mary-Beth Clementine. She was a singer. Most people are in the years 1942 and 1959. She traveled the country performing at churches, mix of religious and popular songs. She recorded a few records that are lost to time. The only one you find mentioned was the cover He's Got the Whole World in His Hands, released under the label New Edison. One thing she was known for was her adoptions. She's listed on many sites that mention adoption and the history of adoption. She adopted 2 children in the 1940s, Stuart and Mark. Did she adopt them though? Or did she acquire them through other means and then said she adopted them? She also spoke as an advocate for the benefits of adoption in front of the United States Congress, who were convening to debate and discuss the then recent first adoption of an African-American child to a white family in the US. She was specifically there to detail her experience going through the system to adopt Stuart. Her other son was adopted later, and according to a single line on adoption site, under unusual circumstances, as in not actually adopted. In 1959, it's surprised that Mary-Beth had been twice divorced, both times to her manager Sterling. This ended her career with the religious audience she has been catering to, and while she's performed occasionally since then, she mostly faded into obscurity. The church people don't like it when you get divorced, I hear. Well, so we know Stuart is the guy that we were contacted about potentially being a Roottrie. It's not necessarily that he might be a Roottrie then if she adopted him, but then the other child was suspiciously adopted, let's call it, and therefore he might be the Roottrie. So we already know Miracle's here, and we will have Mary-Beth. Now, she is called Clementine on across this, but it is not clear whether, like, if she's married her manager, is that his name then, or did she have this name from somewhere else? So, I mean, I'll put it in for now, but we need to change it. And she was a musician, and this is her. And this was a guy named Sterling. I assume that's his first name. So he might be a Clementine, or he might have another name. It is potentially this guy on the picture that's with them. Because, yeah, I don't think it's anyone else from the family. It's not Miracle. We have a picture of Miracle, and that's not what he looked like anyway. So this seems likely. So now we have the older boy on the picture was Stuart. And their name was then Clementine because his wife is also Clementine, but her maiden name was Salazar. And he's a police officer. Okay, and then his brother is Mark, so this is the potential Roottrie child, really, but we don't know anything about him really right now. Let's see if we can find about the songs. Nothing here. New Edison. So we have New Edison was a smart record label based in Los Angeles that existed for a few years in the 40s. It raced to release cover records of songs that were gaining in popularity. According to the website about the history of recorded sound, it was named after its founder, Sterling Edison. Its biggest claim to fame is being sued by the estate of Thomas Edison in Edison Record v. Edsel. You also find a few references to the New Edison and Mary-Beth Clementine sets about old records. One collector says that the Holy Grail is a re-release of Old Rugged Cross, and says that the first edition was originally published before she legally changed her name. She might not have his name because his name was Edison, but she still has changed her name for some reason. Another site claims that the police had been called to the New Edison records after its owner Sterling Edison got in a physical altercation in public leading to a divorce. There are no cited sources or evidence, and the site's content seems user submitted. There's an email address at the bottom and the phrase, "Send me your stories about old Hollywood," and I'll add them to the page. Okay. User-sourced content, always trustworthy. that just goes back to this page. What about this lawsuit? Okay, Edison Records was one of the first record labels named after Thomas Edison. The history of the company seems very unimportant except the lawsuit. A website about lawsuits mentions this is a fun case because the name of the lawsuit was actually the biggest problem for the person being sued. A record producer who called himself Edison was immediately outed as not actually being named Edison. Edsel was a German last name. At the time of the founding of the company, the US was at war with Germany. The company's founder immediately settled to try to get the case to go away, but the damage was done. Okay, so his name was Edsel, not Edison. But her last name is not Clementine. She had it changed. Sam mentions she visited the area as like a musician to perform, and that's how she obviously was around Miracle. So let's see if she's in the periodicals. She came to Butler Country a few times, played the religious hymn at the Miracle Congregation, mentioned 2 times. Miracle Congregation welcomes Mary-Beth Clementine with open arms, and other things. The article mentions that the church leader was moved when he heard Mary-Beth's recording of one of his favorite hymns, His Eyes on the Sparrow. She and her son are welcome to stay in our guest home. The second visit was a few years later, in 1953. The article mentions that her first visit was a massive success, and at the insistence of Miracle's congregation, she returned for an encore performance. It also mentions that the unusual circumstances of her second son's adoption have prevented her from touring recently, but doesn't clarify. She was pregnant, she couldn't tour, because then you would have known it wasn't an adoption. They are being quite obvious about this one, but that still doesn't lead us to her name. Now, another periodical we have is this music thing, so she might be in there. Yes. She was reviewed and advertised many times. There was also some other Mary-Beth Clementine releases that appeared over the years. One of them was The Old Rugged Cross, which is the only song that was advertised but not reviewed. Okay, can we look this up in this periodical then? It was first reviewed by Magazine Herald, listed under Mary-Beth Quaker. Okay, so her original name is going to be Quaker. There we go. That's a quick one. They handed this one to us quite easily. Booyah! I forgot to do that last time. Terrible performance from me. On Stuart, the line kind of ends, but his brother Mark had more happenings. So we could see if it's available on the internet, and if not, then we will go to the new threads instead. Oh, we're printing right away. Crocodile Clementine is listed on a website titled The Infamy List. It's a massive list of criminals who are known for odd crimes. Okay, well, I guess he got into some interesting business. I mean, there was some things about Miracle being in trouble for their fraud and other things, so, you know, not exactly fallen out of certain things the family was up to. Although Mark's nickname would imply he hails from Florida, a lot of the others on the list come from there. Yeah, it's some weird thing about Florida people being doing crazy things, but I actually think that was something to do with the fact that in Florida, lots of the records, like arrests and whatever, are very public, so it's really easy for press to pick up all of the stories about Florida man doing this and that. Yes, he's from Los Angeles. He has a pretty big entry. He seems like a real piece of work. There's a small note about him being the basket baby of 1950s. I don't know what that means. Okay, so they're saying that he was supposedly literally abandoned on a doorstep in a basket, and that's why he's the basket baby. Okay, like it's quite literally basket baby. I actually have someone in my family who was abandoned on a doorstep during the war. So yeah, we don't actually know who the original family were, and they never came back to claim the child, so he just grew up with the family that found him on the doorstep. Okay, yeah, so he was a basket baby, but everything was everything else is about him as an adult. He lost his job in 1975 as a pilot for a regional airline after he tried to board the wrong airplane's plane because he was drunk. He was charged with trespassing and assault. 1982, arrested for smuggling animals over Canadian and Mexican borders for illegal reptile supplier in Los Angeles. He was apparently quite successful for the first 4 years, but he was caught where he had to make an emergency landing in Portland after he was bitten on the foot by a crocodile, hence the nickname. Apparently the Portland Telegraph is credited as having given him the nickname. We're gonna save the Portland Telegraph because we've had Portland mentioned a few times around the various things, so if we can add that to our periodicals, that may help us as well. His mugshot from the incident has been added to your photos. Okay, so we have his face. 1993, he was released on parole, but his freedom didn't last long. He was arrested in 1994 in San Diego for violating it in an attempt to visit his daughter's graduation. He famously punched the principal, a man named Billy Sims. The incident received national press. Take his picture and add it to the board. And well, he was a pilot and then he was a criminal, but I assume criminal is not on the list, yes, so we can put a pilot as his occupation. And then we can hopefully identify his spouse and children based on this incident he got involved in. Yeah, we've added Portland Telegraph for Portland, Oregon to our periodicals, so we can now look up Mark. Maybe there he was flying his plane between Los Angeles, Juarez, and Vancouver. Yes, he was bit by a crocodile and had to call in Mayday because he was losing blood. He tried to tell them that he was a crop duster and somehow cut his leg on a piece of metal in the cockpit, but his story seemed odd and controllers quickly alerted the police without informing him. When he landed, they were waiting and he was promptly arrested. Did he just have a loose crocodile in his plane? Like they didn't put him in a cage or anything like that? Okay, what about this guy that he punched? Billy Sims is the principal of Sandstone Canyon High School. Had his 15 minutes of fame in 1994 when he was punched by the Crocodile Clementine at the graduation. Pretty much every news organization, from trustworthy tabloids, seemed to have their own take on the altercation. It wasn't the punch that captured the nation's attention, however. Instead, it was Billy Sims' matter-of-fact response to the threat and his comments afterwards, as heard in now famous audio clip from someone who was recording the ceremony. Billy saw Mark hop onto the graduation stage and said, "Sir, you'll want to sit down or we'll have a problem." At this point, Crocodile reportedly sucker punched him in the face. Billy apparently only slightly dazed said, "Alright sir, I guess we will have a problem." Clementine tried to throw another punch, but Sims anticipated and performed a maneuver that spectators describe as a wrestling move mixed with backward somersault, which immediately brought both men to the floor, with Sims straddling Clementine, keeping him neutralized. Okay, wow, teachers really got his combat skills. As security arrived, the recording captured someone asking, "How did you do that?" And Sims' response was famously, "Trust me, I'm as surprised as anyone." Okay, can we look up this school? It's a school in San Diego, but yes, it's the incident. Okay, well, we don't have a newspaper for San Diego, but we can, I guess, try News Time because they will cover national things. A small piece about fight between Sims and Crocodile. Try to approach from a different perspective. Paint a picture of the two men involved from others who know them best. Not only did they manage to interview Sims' wife Carla, as well as multiple staff members at the school, but they hunted down Colleen Webb, Mark's ex-wife. According to the section with Colleen, she and he met when he worked for an airline, and she worked at an airport. We don't really need that because we want her need her job. He was a drinker and would often have wild mood swings. When he was charged with assault of a pilot and lost his job, they got divorced. At the time, she was pregnant with their second daughter, and she felt she needed to get out before things got worse. She left him and moved to San Diego to live with her sister and told her orders that her dad had to fly planes for the army. Lion. She raised them both by herself, and although she never went through the trouble of changing their names legally, they used web names so that nobody would connect them to her ex-husband. Okay, so that will be a clue for when they're named, because yes, they will be coming up as maybe Web, but their maiden name would actually be the Clementine. And there's nothing on the web for Colleen. Well, we can put Colleen here. that sort of cuts off our search because there was no mention of the kids' names or anything like that to keep looking for them. So unless we can identify some San Diego news source or something else, yeah, we won't have anything here. So we may give this bit a rest for now and see if we get more information or more sources that we may need in a bit. We can try to dive into what was Guy doing. What was Guy doing? Guy was a very busy guy. But I guess we have all those records. So if there was a secretary to Elias, we might be able to find her in the company records. Okay, we have in 1976, Beth Knox was given 50-year work anniversary bonus. If she worked there for 50 years, it would have been 1926 when she started. So it's later than this possible infidelities in 1921, unless that he knew her before, or it's like some weird record things like, they were a small local company, so she was a secretary there, but she's only on the books for the Roottrees corporation later on. But at least for now, that seems like a clue that we have a secretary that was at the company, I think, while Elias was still there. And therefore, that might be her. We don't have a picture for her, even a potential picture, so we can't. And we also don't have a picture of Elias at all. How can we get a picture of Elias? Because we have all of the archived evidence, but we can't use it in the expansions. We can't collect their face again. So we have to find a picture of Elias again. And, he was from the early 1900s, so it's not like everyone was snapping pics all day long. I mean, we still have lots of bits and bobs we need to research to follow threads, but I'm keeping them for when I need to find new things. Let's look into the book about Elias, because obviously since the family's been in the news, there may have been some additional things. Family Man, Roottrees Legacy by Bess Wissom was a very poorly received book about Elias. There were very few copies of the original published in 1920, but it was recently republished by same publishing company that printed Lawrence Diary for schools. It seems they wished to capitalize on Roottreemania. It did not work. But if it was republished, there might be now library copies. There we go. This book had a picture of the farm on the cover. This version includes a portrait of Elias. Because yes, first time we tried to look the book up in the original game, it was like, nah, it was a bad book and no one has a copy. There we go. Especially of biased or misleading nature, used to promote or publicize a particular political view or point of view. But if we were to replace that definition with a picture, it would be a picture of this book. This book tells you nothing new about Elias, and from what you know, his true feelings towards some of his extended family, you're not sure it tells you anything true about Elias either. The reissue of the book was so lazy that they reused the famous photo of Elias from Business Watch, whose copyright has expired. The best thing it has going for it, it's only 85 pages long. Yeah, so we actually get the same picture of Elias we had, we just had to get it again via new means because nothing is usable from the original game evidence. So we can add a picture of Elias here. So we're currently sitting at 2 possible people that might need confirming. Okay, it might be time to start looking through the things we've pinned but haven't researched yet. We have Rubie Spratt. Like her legal company is rather elusive. The most complete source of information you can find from before her time with the Rootrees is from the website for a magazine owned by a major airline. She was the subject of one article from a recurring series about modern-day success stories. She grew up in foster care but excelled at the school and earned a scholarship to study at Mid-Eastern University. She graduated at the top of her legal class and was quickly hired as a lawyer for a prominent firm. There are a few high-profile corporately involved cases she was part of. One was a legal consultant for a class-action lawsuit against a manufacturer of steering wheel covers. Another was to help a local gas station chain in her hometown of Portland. Again, Portland, so we can probably look her up. The Portland paper we have and see if there's anything about her. With the roll of a promotion that allowed gas station customers to the ability to bet on the price of gas. Okay. I mean, I'm not sure why we need to research her right now, because she's the lawyer for the family. But, I mean, we're just researching everyone, right? Like, in the main game, I sort of fall into a few traps, because I was like, oh, what could a book about swashbuckle my heart before? But it turned out that was important, so shouldn't just discard something because it's like, oh, what's that? What is this information for? Doesn't sound useful, so we'll see what we can dig up. The blurb ends up calling her the new firm a double threat. It's a cross between traditional lawyer and PR manager. Okay, is there anything more if we look up the company? Yes, the company was hired by Roottrees. Not much from before this year. They hired her as an outside counsel, and now it's tied to multiple aspects of the Roottrees Corporation. They were recently in the news to a high-profile lawsuit they raised against Sisley Sanchez. Okay, we have Mid-Eastern University, because it's midway between Maine and Miami. They are not known for their sports as much as for their education. Their legal and language departments are divided and joined. They also have fairly extensive computer science and robotic programs. They're not quite Ivy League, but some refer to them as Little Ivy. The college has embraced this, calling their newspaper the Herald, which is a combination of Hedera, which is a type of ivy, and Herald. Okay. Can we also get this paper for us? Yep, we get to have it added. Now, based on how much this is leading to information, it feels like Rubie will come up more in this investigation. Like, she will be important for some reason. Okay, was this Sisley Sanchez then? It's an author best known for Portrait of a Changed Man, released in 1979. Her follow-up, Foreign Gospel, did not perform as well critically, but still sold quite respectably. She has written a few more books since then, including a biography of Van Gogh, but her first two are her claim to fame. Sisley is known for her non-fiction, with a focus on exploring darkness and human psyche. Recently, she appeared in a magazine called Picotet, with an article about a book she had been commissioned to write up for Guy Hudson. The magazine and Sisley herself were immediately issued a cease and desist due to its inclusion of pictures that she never had the rights to publish. The issue was pulled from the store shelves, making it an instant collector's item. Okay, what's with this Picotet then? It's a flower with an outline on the edges. Okay, I think if we put it in the periodicals and then try to look something up, it immediately adds itself anyway. So, yep, we are printing, and we've had Picotet. It's a recent supermarket tabloid that latches onto popular culture. Okay, there was some mentions of tabloids and the other things, so we may be able to use this one. An issue that focuses on talking toy fish, and the demonic messages it supposedly says, as the batteries ran low. Picotet had an article about a cancelled book by Sisley Sanchez. The book's subject was Guy Hudson, and the issue was said to contain pictures that Sisley did not have rights to publish. Because of the pictures, the issue was pulled. Due to its recall, the version found in the archives is incomplete. Okay, so it doesn't even have the things. Yes, it's a demon fish. Beelzebub. Because this popular gift, the thing comes with satanic messages. Yeah. But apparently 8 points here, so it's valuable. Article about Sisley Sanchez. Anne's book she had written about Guy Hudson. Okay, so there's the information we need for Guy's adventures. That used photos of Guy that Sisley did not own the rights to publish, so they had to be removed. It was pulled from the shelves that the version you found in your periodical search had the relevant page removed, rendering this magazine useless unless you want to read about a potentially demonic fish toy. Yeah, let me read about the demonic fish toy. No? Okay. Well, this is interesting because this is worth 8 points, but there is literally... that's the content of this. This means there is a way, probably, to find the article contents through some means. The issue was pulled from the store shelves, making it the subject of some conspiracies. We do have our guy. Oh, can we find him? Can we find we have the guy that did Roottrees conspiracies before. Yes, here. Following a complex rabbit hole through conspiracy site that led to finding a searchable web address for Chris Rafferty. Chris Raff. Okay, well, let's look into Chris Raff. Okay, we've got something from here. Chris Rafferty project site seem to have been discovered by the masses. Gone are the art pictures of his cousin. Instead, it's a list of questions that people keep emailing him. The most relevant are the following. Are you the son of Clark Rafferty? Yes, but I didn't grow up with him. I remember him from when I was a little kid, but I moved away with my mom when I was very young. We left Pennsylvania and moved back to home in Virginia. We lived there with Pete, my stepdad. My dad and I spoke a few times when I found his phone number on a check he sent us in the mail when I was 15. He was happy to hear from me, and now he calls me once a month and came to visit me at college. He tells me about things I don't remember, people like Guy Hudson and Ernie Madsen. My dad and I get along, but obviously we aren't close. Did you ever meet the Roottrees? I used to know the Roottrees, but never the sisters. I was in the office sometimes when I was a kid. I definitely met Guy Hudson before he died, but I don't remember. My memory is weird. It's hard to know what I actually remember and what I only think I do because I have pictures. For example, I have a photo from when I was 5 and in the office with my dad and Guy was there. I made myself sick by eating chocolate and some woman who I don't know cleaned my face. The photo was added to your evidence, okay. This will be some context to something later. How did you have proof of Ernie Madsen's heart condition? I knew Ernie had heart problems because my dad told me. On one of our phone calls, I asked him about the poison because I saw it on the Roottrees Curse website. And he emailed some old stuff, including the proof, but even with the proof, the website didn't take it down. You spelled fiancé wrong. Yes, it was something weird. I'm not good with spelling or writing. I'm good at painting and other art. I'm going to school to learn how to edit movies. I want to make cartoons someday. So Lulu is much better at spelling. Okay, so yeah, that's how we get to the conspiracies, maybes. During your initial search, you came across Thomas Overwood conspiracy page about the Roottrees. 8 months later, the page still exists and it's thriving. The visitor count has reached 7 digits. Many older articles have been replaced. It seems that the recent uprising in Roottrees news has left Thomas Overwood with a constant stream of events to base new theories on. More than one of his theories involved Roottrees deaths being faked. According to Overwood, statistically, when you have this many high-profile people who have died in a family, people die. Eventually everyone will die, so statistically everyone in the family will die. The other and one of them faked their death. It's just math. Or they died. This newfound focus on death faking seems to coincide with a post mentioning that he's begun believing the guy's not dead theory. Are we saying he's going around and still having kids all over the country, so we're gonna have to track them down. In his own words, my eyes have been opened. All of this is beginning to make too much sense. On one of his posts details the belief that Ron Roottrees is still in charge. Gwyn Roottree's death was fake. Well, Gwyn died. And that Clark is the only there to throw people off. Apparently this allowed Ron to travel to France to develop his new candy recipe in secret. What is it gonna be now? Not even Sam Madsen is spared. According to Overwood, the author of 6 Pieces isn't real. Sam Madsen is an anagram for madness. They're purposely leaving hints for us. He claims that using 6 Pieces with Lauren Roottree's book as one-time pad, he has begun to decrypt the cipher. Most of the cipher seems meaningless, but he managed to pick up the words people and vastness, and is working on figuring out what this means. There is also a request at the bottom. Next year, 2000 is a leap year, and Overwood is looking for funds and volunteers to catch the Roottrees red-handed in Operation RT-29. He specifically mentions not to volunteer if you've ever drank Spirit Cola, but doesn't go into why. I'm pretty sure he said last time that it's because he thinks everyone who drank Spirit Cola will die in the year 2000. And yes, the Operation RT-29 is the one where you can commit crimes on February 29th, and unless you discovered on the same day, you can't be charged because that's how law works. It's a secret day where you just get to do whatever you want. Okay, so guy's not dead. Ooh. We're printing a lot. The Guy's Not Dead conspiracy stems from a website that focuses on clues that the Roottrees have supposedly hid all over the place. This includes on candy wrappers, in print advertisement, in television commercials, in their jingles, etc. The story, according to the website, is that Guy Hudson was a terrible president, he was, of the Roottrees Company, and introduced multiple failed products. Something needed to be done that would put the company instantly back in favor of the consumers, so they killed off Guy Hudson and replaced him with a new president. This move immediately garnered sympathy, and the company recovered the next year, more popular than ever. The next president stayed much further out of the limelight, and some people even theorized that he was simply Guy Hudson in an elaborate disguise, which is why he stopped appearing in public. The people who run the site are asking for help. They're certain that there's a clue to all of this that accidentally leaked in a banned article from the magazine Picotet. On their page is a scan of the magazine's cover, the interview with Sisley Sanchez about Guy Hudson, and some photos. You add them to your evidence, okay. So that's how we get this recalled article. Join me next time to uncover what a paper that focuses on demonic fish had to say about Guy Hudson.